My name is Robert Williams. I'm an Aboriginal archaeologist. I belong to the Walgalu, Ngunnawal and Wiradjuri people of ACT and New South Wales. I'm a PhD candidate student at the ANU. My PhD is focused on studying the prehistory of the small island, a Polynesian outlier called Futuna in southern Vanuatu. I'm also the director and founder of Murrumbidgee Archaeology and Heritage, which is an Aboriginal-owned and operated archaeology consultancy. As archaeologists, I think we're in a really privileged position to use our skills, our knowledge to help Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities, particularly to give them a voice which has often not really been listened to when it comes to heritage matters. And that is definitely a really important responsibility and obligation that we have. So I think if we can make a change or help Indigenous communities in our own practice and how we approach archaeology, whether that be around being more ethical and following the wishes and the aspirations of communities as much as we can. I think if we do that, if we align ourselves with the values of Indigenous communities and with their wishes, I think we're better practitioners ourselves, but also we are then, I think, helping Indigenous communities, particularly around, as I said, giving them a voice. There's also implications or considerations around health and well-being. If we look at some of the recent research that is coming out around health and well-being of Indigenous communities, often what is cited is that culture and connection to culture is fundamental to how Aboriginal people perceive themselves, how they identify, and also to their health and their health outcomes. So archaeologists, we're in a funny position where often we're the arbiters, or we can be responsible, or the barrier in a sense between Aboriginal people and them being able to work and involve themselves in cultural heritage management. So we have a huge obligation, responsibility to make sure that we're bringing Aboriginal people in, that they have an opportunity to connect with this work, that they have an opportunity to have their voices heard and to be involved, participate, and that has down the line outcomes, and hopefully beneficial outcomes for Indigenous communities around health and well-being, allowing them to be connected to this and ensuring that they are connected through our practices, through the practice of archaeology, and have that connection with country, which can be really healing and really rewarding for Indigenous communities. But definitely the most rewarding aspect of my job is the people I meet. So ever since I've been a kid and working in archaeology and through to being a professional archaeologist, I'm always meeting amazing people and really getting to learn a lot from them. So when working with Indigenous communities around New South Wales, they're all interlinked. We're all interlinked through our ceremony, through our stories, through our customs, through our histories, and also through our colonial histories. The movement of people and dispossession of land and the movement of people into missions often brought many families together. And out of that, new relationships developed. So through all that and entangled all in that is a very rewarding experience for me, because I get to meet Aboriginal people in other parts of New South Wales, and we're always connected in some sort of way. And I always get to hear a little bit about their country, their land, their culture. There's definitely just a great benefit of doing this kind of work. And so you're really kind of there getting an understanding and appreciation of how people live and getting an idea of their stories and their history, and building those relationships with them is definitely a great outcome. So as I talked about a little bit, my work on Futuna is really sort of a standout, but also working in Vanuatu a couple of times has been really phenomenal experience, and it made me want to go back and pursue archaeology, a PhD in the Western Pacific. And mainly it's just, like I said, it's just due to the relationships, the people that you meet. It's such a rewarding and enriching experience. And then, the archaeology is just an extra benefit. The archaeology is really fascinating. The history of the Pacific is extremely interesting. And the whole sort of colonisation of these remote islands, settlement by the first peoples of these islands is, I think, perhaps one of the most phenomenal stories of human history. Their sea voyaging technologies, all underpinned by cultural knowledge and ancient oral histories that have allowed people to settle and colonise these islands, but also to flourish on them and create extremely elaborate and productive agricultural systems like the one on Futuna where I studied, the ones on Futuna that I studied. So archaeology there is very exciting. Working over there, the excavation is quite unique, I think, and the results that you get, you're able to tell quite an amazing story of Ni Vanuatu or Futunan culture and history. So this is a story that I've told numerous times, and it's one that I think is kind of cool. So it's worth telling, and it all started when I was a kid. So my dad was he worked as the chair at the Ngunnawal Land Council. It was called the Ngunnawal Land Council at the time in Queenville, and as a land council, they were often involved in providing site officer work, heritage work. As a representative, as a land council representative, and I would ask my mum if I could get a day of school, and if she gave me the all clear, I'd go out with Dad on these heritage surveys. And places we would visit would be all sorts of places. Particularly one that stands out was when I was only young was the gas pipeline. It was a massive project that went through New South Wales and Victoria, just walking just walking where the development was going to take place, looking for artefacts. Also going to places like Namadgi National Park and working out there. I really have fond memories of working in there in Upper Namadgi National Park and finding some really cool artefacts as a kid. They're very fond memories, and they really sort of set me up for wanting to get into archaeology later in life. So I went to university as a mature age student, and I kind of had an idea what I wanted to do. I thought I'd try and study archaeology at the ANU, and it all happened. I got accepted, and the rest is sort of history. And now I'm in my sort of 11th year of university and trying to complete a PhD. So it's been a long journey, and I'm hoping to get the thesis submitted soon and get on to the next exciting stage of things. So people wanting to become an archaeologist, I would definitely say do it. It's a very rewarding career. You get to see amazing places, amazing people often spend a lot of time on the road. So particularly as a younger person, before you maybe have a family or sort of set down roots, I think it can be a really sort of great career as well. Going out to regional Australia and staying in a old school motel and for days or weeks on end while you excavate or survey is it's great fun. You meet great characters, you have great colleagues, and you can have a lot of fun while you do it. I would say work out where the places that you're interested in studying, and maybe sort of focus on those areas a bit more when you're going through maybe undergraduate degree, and before maybe start thinking about specialising in those sort of areas. I would also say that you should, if you are thinking of studying archaeology, that you shouldn't just restrict yourself to archaeology, and you should try and study as many disciplines, use interdisciplinary methods across schools, and I think that will really give you a more sort of holistic and a better, just better experience, I guess, and more prepared when eventually you come out to graduating and going out to the field. So, for me, what was really useful was studying geomorphology, environmental sciences, because these are all very useful in the Australian context. But also, doing things like getting a decent appreciation, particularly if you want to go down sort of more academic route, archaeological theory, studying a bit of anthropology and social sciences a bit more. I would say get as much experience as you can. So that can start while you're an undergraduate. So you can ask around, you can go out and volunteer on surveys. There's often academics who are looking for extra hands and are happy to take undergraduates along to give them a bit of experience digging or surveying, various other skills. And that's how I got to go to Vanuatu. So, I just had to ask and was luckily given the opportunity, and that really set everything in motion. So get as much experience as you can, maybe even look for jobs. You don't have to be a graduate to get a job in the field, in archaeology. I have seen undergraduates working, particularly on historical sites. Just get out there, get dirty, get plenty of experience, and I think all that coming together really makes you a better archaeologist, at least with more experience.